Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to Talkin Far Far Away, episode 22 here at the Brick City Blockade podcast network. Scott Inch and I are sitting, he's across the pond. You actually are seeing our faces this time, which is really cool. The part is, Scott, is that, we've been kind of teasing this for a little bit of time here at the network. You and I have been talking on it on Talkin Far Far Away, of course. We had an event that just came and just concluded today itself. It's a little event called D23 Exposition. And we got some Star Wars stuff, Scott.
Yes, we got the sizzle reel for The Last Jedi yesterday. It was a very, the panel was about 10, 15 minutes. I mean, all of us on the network were tweeting through our wee Facebook group chat, we're talking about it. We're like, oh my God, what's next? What's coming? What's coming? So yeah, we got the sizzle reel after they'd done the live pan at the Disney live action movies. Yeah, I quite enjoyed it. I liked the music with it. I liked everything we got from it, especially Admiral Akbar at the end saying, "It's a wrap," which I think everybody gets a job saying it. If you don't know that, then you don't understand Star Wars with that kind of reference. So yeah, it was a good small. I wish there was more, but yeah, it was nice to see. Well, obviously we couldn't see it live streaming, but it was nice to hear that Laura Dern was there and Benicio del Toro was there. So they're ushering in the new members to the Star Wars family.
Yeah, and it's so crucial because I think going into D23, I think we had our expectations in terms of any Han Solo stuff. Were we going to see possibly the next spin-off film announced here from Lucasfilm? That's Scott. But we did get a sizzle reel from The Last Jedi. And it's funny because this is right around the time that we started to see some of the stuff about The Force Awakens in 2015. Brian Fontaine had mentioned it yesterday. It was at San Diego Comic-Con 2015 that we got the sizzle reel for Awakens. So it's kind of interesting that they timelined it within a week of when Force Awakens came out. It seems like there's a format going there. But let's talk about this physical sizzle reel itself, because even though we didn't get all these big announcements, we got some interesting tidbits for The Last Jedi itself. And Scott, one of the things I want to talk to you about of this film, just alone, when you're talking about Rian Johnson here, he was going to bring a fresh new feel coming into this, and the middle film was going to be darker in some sense. Did you get that darker feel to it? Because I certainly got a much more grittier tone to this compared to what we got with The Force Awakens.
I got that feel. I also got a feel that it's going to be a bit of a desperation. You know, like that when we saw it in the Last Jedi trailer, but you saw like Phasma and her stormtroopers storming the Resistance base. It just feels like there's going to be some kind of desperation. You can see just the feeling of, you could see that Leia is kind of trying to get help to maybe try and get the Resistance building up. We're all speculating here, but that's the kind of feeling you get. And also more of Luke Skywalker. We got to see him in two outfits this time. One of them being in the brown looking outfit, kind of looks similar to the Return of the Jedi outfit he wore. Got to see more Phasma. We got to see Benicio del Toro. We got to see Laura Dern interacting with Carrie Fisher, and just it was just some nice wee tidbits. We got to see Chewie get a perm, which was quite nice. You know, Wookiees do have to go to the stylist sometimes. So there we go. And yeah, it just looks like there's so much action in this movie and so much fresh new approaches to stuff, and it's not going to be like everybody would say, oh, but The Force Awakens was a homage to New Hope, but I don't think we're going to get this with this movie. Again, Force Awakens had to bring everybody back to Star Wars. That's why it's the third highest grossing box office of all time. So yeah, we're going to get some really, really meaty stuff in this movie. And Daisy Ridley said herself that what people were expecting will be like, oh my God, I never saw that coming.
Yeah, and you bring this up, and I'm glad you wanted to kick it off with us before we start over analyzing this thing like we do here at the network. And as Star Wars fans, we love to just keep breaking down each one of these moments and see what we can dig out of it. But you do bring up an interesting point, and I think that's something that we haven't heard yet from these actors, is that, J.J. Abrams, of course, his job was to reintroduce us, and all the actors in that sizzle reel said JJ is doing a great job of bringing us back to the roots of Star Wars and reintroducing this universe to the fans. A little bit more of what I was expecting from these actors to say, that Rian Johnson is now turning this thing on its head, and he is bringing a fresh new look and a grittier tone and stuff that you are not expecting in the Star Wars universe to show up are going to show up in this film. And it's so nice to hear that. And I think that's something that Star Wars actors go through. I think you can probably say that with Luke alone. You want to talk about Mark Hamill throughout his career, just in terms of Star Wars, going from A New Hope, where he was just a farm boy, to suddenly George Lucas coming in and saying, hey, guess what? Just before that scene happened, Darth Vader's your father, buddy. So, and I expect not that kind of a reveal with this film, but I expect twists. I expect Rian Johnson, not just because it's a middle film, but that's what he does with his films. Guy who developed Looper, did some stuff with that. This is a guy who has done this cinematically for many, many years, and I think it's promising. Scott, you and I are big movie fans. I think we know that when a director like Rian Johnson comes in to do something, they're not going in there to do something wholesale. They're going in there to do something that's unique and has its own tone and its own unique story to it.
No, he's not going into Michael Bay with Transformers making just a visual noise. No matter what John Rucker says, it's the Transformers latest one's just a disaster. About turning it on its head, Mark Hamill's even said that he hasn't doesn't agree with the way that Luke's been portrayed, but he's made his feels about it clear, but he's doing it obviously. But he's now accepted the fact that, okay, he never saw this coming. But yeah, there's so much in this movie that just shows it's turning on its head. That we're not going to get a chance to, it's going to take us weeks and months to kind of go, well, why did that happen? How does this lead into episode 9? Oh my God, what's this going to happen? So yeah, a director like Rian Johnson is definitely going to do that. What he's done with Looper. I mean, any other director who could have done that, as long as it was not Michael Bay. So yeah, we'll wait and see, but I think Rian Johnson's going to give us a fantastic movie.
Now, one of the things we have to do, just teased it. Let's start breaking down this sizzle reel like we probably should. Yeah. There are interesting tidbits throughout this. However, Scott, you and I kind of talked about this before going on air. There are certain moments throughout this sizzle reel. Yeah, did it follow the same format as Force Awakens at time? Yeah, of course. It's Lucasfilm. It's Disney. They're going to follow that kind of format. But there were certain things in here that they were teasing so hard and want fans to get into that I think it's worth a discussion. Now, one of the things we did talk about, and it comes fairly early in this, is we see a lot of what's going on with Rey, and we see a lot of the training that she's going through, and we see what Daisy Ridley is being put through in terms of Rey herself and probably her film. I mean, it looks like she's going to be running around a ton. It looks like Luke is going to be training her and getting her going and saying, you know what, if you want to defeat the First Order and you want to get back at Kylo Ren and you want to avenge Han Solo, which I know Luke obviously wants to do, of course, after he finds out probably what Ben Solo did to him. I think that we're seeing some of that. And there was one specific part that I want to talk to you about. And we talked about it last night in our discussion for Sean's birthday at Jim Roberge's house, which was a ton of fun. So big shout out to them for that. But
I wasn't there.
I know. We actually had the little Force Ghost Obi-Wan there for you.
There we go.
You said you wanted to be there as a Force Ghost, so most appropriately, you were there. Scott, there was one part of this. Daisy Ridley is fighting off 3 other people. 3 of them have staves. She has a lightsaber. I have my feelings about it, but I want to get yours first.
Well, as you said, we spoke about it offline, and the ones it harkens back. This was reported, so if you're listening, you can skip ahead 20 to 30 minutes. Obviously, we don't do spoilers, but this is what's been reported, and it kind of ties into what we're seeing in the sizzle reel. Is that there is a scene where Rey is taking on a certain amount of people, and this looks like this scene coincides with the training and with her being training how to fight with 3 staffs against 1 lightsaber. It also might tie in with that scene where she's running along with the lightsaber on the beach of where Luke is. So it seems to be that these kind of little dots are connected together. We're kind of starting to get some kind of picture there.
Yeah, and it's an interesting point to come to, because of course, again, you just said it, we're not focused on spoilers here, but if you want to go and find this stuff, you can. It's out there. You can read it at your own discretion, because there is some cool stuff out there. I've learned. It's like, yeah, they're kind of tidbit stuff, and they're probably not going to affect how I enjoy the film. But that's up to you to decide, and we're not going to spoil it too much. But there are some interesting tidbits. We are slowly starting to connect the dots, real, and some of the stuff. And my overall thoughts on this, Scott, is that I have a prediction that, obviously, could these 3 people be associated with Kylo Ren in some way? I'm not going to say specifically, but are they like an acolyte to him? Yeah, probably in some kind of standard, based on what we've read and based on what here at the Brick City Blockade Podcast Network we've talked about leading up to this. Also is telling that they put those 2 scenes coinciding with each other pretty damn close. And it's kind of interesting that this way it does. And as we keep seeing Rey in this. And one of the things you brought up, Scott, again, everything happens before we go on air, folks. It seems like some of the best conversations, and we're going to get some of those. I'm just going to hit the record button after this, Scott. We're just going to keep rolling before we even start here half the time. But
not all the time.
Right. Most appropriately.
Yeah.
But you brought up an interesting point about Kylo Ren himself. Let's talk about specifically that garb that he has on, because we've seen the leaked pictures from Battlefront.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen a lot of discussion that, yeah, the Kylo Ren that you saw, it was pretty badly damaged at the end of Force Awakens. He's going to be upgrading himself a little bit in terms of his style. You know what I mean? You're gonna have to kind of, in the second one, up your style a little bit. But that shot of obviously Adam Driver in this new look Kylo Ren suit, it's looking a little bit like Grandpa there, Scott. I don't know.
No, I agree with you. The scene and the sizzle reel is like, it's very reminiscent of Return of the Jedi, when he's on the Death Star in the throne room, and you see him come out the lift, the turbo lift, whatever we call it, and he's got his helmet on, and he's kind of dressed the way Vader is. It's very Vaderish. It's very like, Grandpa Anakin, here we come. So yeah, and then it cuts to the other part of that scene as well. And I have you noticed though, in that scene where there's still no railings in half of that. What is it with Star Wars? Railings, that's how Han fell. I know this is. I'm going to send a letter to the engineers of these bases. Railings, please. Health and safety. If an environmental officer came out, he would close you down. Anyway, that's something else. But yeah, that scene was very reminiscent that we're going to see Snoke in that throne room. That's Snoke's throne room. Because why is Kylo Ren there? That's what I want to know. Is he getting more training? Is he being given a row for the fact that he failed to stop the Resistance destroying Starkiller Base? Who knows? But it looks like a very grand scale design. It's not all on blue screen. This is very grand scale. So I think we're going to see Snoke in person, and that's his throne room. It just looks amazing.
And I didn't know if we were going to go here, but we're going to go here with it, because there have been so many different reports. Again, you can go and find this stuff. Please fast forward. If you don't want to hear this, I'm waving my hands right now like I always do, because this is when it comes. been tons and tons of reports, and I think this teaser, this sizzle reel, whatever you want to call it, confirms the realistic and the live action puppeteering and the live action effects that we're going to see used. Practical effects is the right word to use. This film. Been a lot of reports about Snoke being a practical effect. I'm starting to get that feel now that you're talking about it, that Kylo Ren is going to face and see for the first time, it seems like, in terms of what we know, Snoke is a practical being, as a practical effect in the Star Wars universe. And like you said, if we get that throne room feel, like almost like what we had with Vader and Palpatine in that way, and there's a practical effect Snoke sitting there, just be prepared to be blown in that circumstance. Because then you're going to have iconic images of those two. You're going to have the Star Wars that we have been looking for so very long, and what we want to be reintroduced to. And I think you bring up a great point. Kylo Ren is maturing. He got rid of his dad like Snoke wanted him to. He got rid of what was holding him back, the light side. And we're starting to see that maturity factor in terms of him turning to the dark side more starting to play out here. It's hard to say because this is all speculation, but I think as fans, we're starting to, like you said, connect the dots here, and we're starting to put it together. What, Scott, I totally went past my mind here, is that opening scene in this sizzle reel where we had the red marshmallows being thrown at the rock wall. And I didn't know Crate was going to be made of red marshmallows. That surprised me.
I didn't know that either. It just looks like it's from that scene where all the new kind of resistance ships, because they've got that kind of thin red smoke or whatever is coming out, and I feel like that's that. So there we go. We're connecting another set of dots as well. There. Yeah, there's just so much in this sizzle reel as well. The one thing is that are using a lot of puppeteers, practical effects. Like we saw the guys who build these fantastic creatures, and you just saw like bits of them in their mouths, and the room, but like it was very like a casino, with all this. That's amazing. Oh, I can't wait to see that. We got to see a lot of Carrie in this, like in this sizzle reel. And I just like at the end where she's just like that, nodding. Yeah. As she said herself, this movie's about family, so it does hurt to see, we're the closer we get to this movie, the more we're kind of saying bon voyage to Carrie Fisher.
For sure. Yeah. So that's a really good point. And, just kind of stemming off of that alone, I think, if Carrie Fisher, if she was going to have her last film in Star Wars, just based off of the sizzle reel, this is one hell of a film to go out on. I mean, it's just based on what we've seen so far in the family aspect and what Luke is going through with Rey. And then obviously, I think this is a real confirmed that we're going to see them reunite at some point, because I feel like we've seen Luke in a couple outfit changes in this, like when he's standing on the rocks and he's got his robe off and everything. And then, of course, we see a little bit more of behind the scenes, and Luke has the robe off, and it looks like he's wearing some kind of European vacationing bag around himself, which I don't know. Maybe Mark Hamill likes those. Maybe he likes dad bags. I don't know.
But he's in Ireland, so that says it all.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. And, at the same time, I think that, of course, emotionally, it's absolutely touching that they put Carrie Fisher at the end of this sizzle reel, because it's such a great way to say, boom, guess what? This is how it's going to be. It's going to be emotional. You guys have to be ready for it. Now, speaking of kind-hearted, speaking of loving, I think we have to talk about porgs. I think we have to talk about the porgs, Scott. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about right now, but they are the little creatures that we see in the sizzle reel, and they have these big eyes. And there have been a lot of reports, making StarWars.net has reported on this, that Luke is not alone on Octu. I think we kind of understood that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very clicking now. I was just like, what? I thought you had like a pork, and it was like, what's pork got to do with this? And is there a pig on this island that I'm not aware of?
Oh, this is what's so great about live streaming is because you just catch these moments. It's just so good. But it's no the tiny little things, Scott. They're called porgs. I know it's my American accent. It's tough.
Compared to the Scottish, which is hot to knees, apparently.
No, and you know that's and they're so again making StarWars.net reported on these and Jim was it Jim or somebody made a terrible comment last night and they made a comment about Luke's size that we finally see him on Octo and I can't remember who it was. I'm going to quote them at some point. But they said that no wonder why Luke put on so many pounds because he had so many porgs that he could feast on. Now, we came up with the term of porg skewers at that point. I just looked at him and I said, you know what? I said, these things are so freaking cute. I said, how dare you? How dare you? Cute little practical effects became Luke's lunch, dinner, dessert, breakfast on Octo. Scott, I don't know how you feel about this because this is the network that you've now associated yourself with. That we are talking about porgs being an everyday meal and why Luke is chunky Luke, hashtag chunky Luke at this point. I'm speechless. I think they're cute. I think it's such a great. I mean, when they become plushies and they become toys and they are put on the shelves, goodbye. Force Friday, you're never going to get your hands on one.
Well, he is on an island that has hardly anything. So, I mean, come on, he's got to eat, man. He's got to eat. I mean, he was on there for 5 years. I mean, he used the force and just whoosh. But then we must understand all living things, you know. But then we had to go. They had to go to the Lion King way. You know, you just have to eat them. Even though you're the pride, you're the king, you still have to eat your subjects.
That is why Snoke is mad because I have started the hashtag Snoke is porgs because he is mad at Luke because he's eating his kind.
That would explain why Snoke's got a big dent in his head. Luke was trying to eat him. So there we go.
Over here, you.
So there we go. Hashtag cannibal Luke.
Ooh.
Oh, there we go. Luke likes to eat people now. So that's why there's nobody else on that planet. Luke's been eating people. He's the new Hannibal Lecter of Star Wars. But yeah, all joking aside, they are cute little things. They kind of remind me of the creature that's in the Rebels.
Yes.
So it's a nice tie back there. Whether they are, it's another thing. But they're cute little things, and even though they're puppets, but oh man, they're so cute.
Yeah, I know. It's like we haven't seen this since the Ewoks. No, I'm kidding. There's a whole thing about Ewoks. They're more vicious than we think. Maybe porgs are vicious. I don't know. It's gonna be hard. It's hard to say. Luke might have had to have hunted them down in a more aggressive manner. He may have had to have built mechanisms to capture these things. I'm getting too dark, but at the same time, you want to talk about? You brought it up, Scott. The cantina scene. That is what got me in this sizzle reel. Is that little lobster thing that's probably a bartender is like, well, what do you have to drink? You know, it's just sorry I had to do that, but at the same time, the casino's name is Canto Bite. That's the physical name for this casino. And you want to talk about, we saw it in the Vanity Fair covers, what's going to be in this cantina in terms of aliens, in terms of beings who are going to be there enjoying themselves. This is going to end up being one of my favorite scenes in this film when we arrive at Canto Bite, because it sounds like a lot of stuff is happening there based on what we've even read going into the sizzle reel, it seems like they've been focusing a lot of shooting around it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of going. It kind of feels like that way. It feels like that we're starting to get more of these kind of scenes in Star Wars now. We've had the cantina scene, and you hope we've got that great cantina scene in Maz's castle. So I feel all we're waiting now is for the next song, part of that song, Jabba Flow, to appear in this movie.
Yeah.
So hopefully we get part 2 of that song. I would like to see about part 2 of that song. But yeah, there's so much going on in that scene. The question is, who's there? Is this where Leia goes and there's a lot of, or is this where Rey and Luke, which I don't think so. This doesn't feel like they're kind of. This definitely doesn't look like Luke's kind of scene. Or is it Finn and Rose is on a mission here? This is what we'll wait to see, but because there's none of the main characters that I saw were in that scene at all. So unless it was all hidden, Kathleen Kennedy was there, so maybe she's in that scene.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because obviously she wasn't at D23, so maybe she made it to Canto Bight. You know what I mean? Maybe she took that detour. I don't know. And one of the things from this sizzle reel, Scott, I'd play a little game of over under here with you, because I get an idea about maybe something that might happen. Of course, it's speculation. Of course, this is a prediction, but I'm going to set the percentage at 55% over under. I'm going to throw it to you first on this. What are the chances that Canto Bight is where we meet Benicio del Toro's character, DJ?
I'm going to say 60%. 60% that we might see DJ there. Whether, again, if he's Ezra or not, Dark Jedi, I don't know. But yeah, I think 60% we'll see him there.
All right. 99.9% chance we are going to meet DJ at Canto Bight, and here is the reason why. There's been a lot of talk, and a lot of people have been going back to Force Awakens, and they've been reading the scene where Rey is talking with Han on the Millennium Falcon, and they start listing off the names of people who have had possession of the Millennium Falcon in the past. And in one part, there's a name that comes up. There's a specific name that comes up at the beginning. And I have to go back and listen to it specifically. I haven't read this clip in a long time, but I believe the initials associated were D and J. I believe they were. So is this where, maybe Rey shows up in the Millennium Falcon on this planet and DJ's like, hey, that's the ship that was mine, And he gets all old man on us, all old man Benicio del Toro with his Heineken on the side being like, I know how to call a waiter. No, I'm kidding. But I'm starting to think that we get introduced to DJ, and I think based on Benicio del Toro kind of fits in what we've seen him do in other films, especially comic book films, is that he really does play the sly character for information or go to like almost as like a resource. I think he's going to be the one that seeks out the Millennium Falcon in some way, trying to retrieve it. But I don't know. That's just speculation, and that's just something I'm thinking. It'll be interesting to see where that character goes. But 99.9% sure on Canto Bight, because Benicio del Toro is a betting man for sure.
Yeah, he's kind of going to be the Lando of the series. I think so. Just the way you're describing it, I think he could be Lando Calrissian of this trilogy. So I would be surprised if we see him back for episode 9, unless he gets killed off, which I hope he doesn't, because he likes just doing his collector impression from Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah, you're right. He plays that kind of character that everybody goes to for information, and especially in the Guardians of the Galaxy, he's the one that's telling about the Infinity Stones. So, so yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he's the one that people go to for information. He's the one that he's a smuggler type. So yeah, I can see him being Lando, and he joins the resistance to fight the First Order. I may be wrong. I may be wrong, but you know, you never know. He could be the Lando of the series.
It's a really interesting point. Is like it almost goes to a different extent, not necessarily that maybe he had possession of the Millennium Falcon, he's coming after them. No, he had possession of the Millennium Falcon, and Rey remembered that name that Han spoke of. And maybe Han had some background, maybe stuff from Maz's castle or something. Of course, there's a lot of stories that are there that, you know, obviously we don't know about and everything. Yeah. So maybe Rey was clued in on who this guy could possibly be. And it was like, yeah, he's a resource you got to go to now that Han is, you know, sadly, now that Han is gone, go to if you want to get off the planet or want to just know where certain things maybe within the First Order are. And speaking of First Order, Scott, now a lot of people think it's Hux pulling up in this vehicle, and it's this long vehicle that shows up that everybody's like trying to stop, this big metal vehicle, and it looks like Hux and somebody else is inside of it. First thing I thought of was Red Skull's vehicle at first, because it was the long oblong vehicle. Skull's gonna show up in Star Wars Episode 8, but no, that's not the case.
We got that here first, folks. Red Skull is now in a Star Wars movie.
But I'm curious to hear your thoughts, because I keep going back to that. I don't know why I have a feeling this is going to be very cool when it shows up. Hux pulling up like to his homecoming dance, you know, with somebody in the car, be like, you know, yeah, like all cool and everything. Like, hey, you know, my dad was an Imperial officer, and
okay, that worked out. If you've read any of the canon novels, you'll understand that. That seemed like too quickly. I felt sorry for the guys that had to stop it, because I really thought they were going to get knocked down. I thought they were going to have a Harrison Ford where the Millennium Falcon fell on the door. The doors of the Millennium Falcon fell on top of Harrison Ford. But that seems too fast for me to kind of catch that, so I couldn't quite make it out, because it did look like there was people in it, but it was too quick. Even every time I was stopping it, I was like, I can't get that. So, but if you're saying Hux is in it with someone else, maybe it's his date for the homecoming dance. The First Order homecoming dance where like they dance to each other. Yeah, but that's something different. No idea why I said that. So yeah, I don't know, like, but it's a very long vehicle. It's a very Star Wars type vehicle. It kind of feels like a shorter version of the Naboo cruiser from Episode 1. It's got that kind of look and feel to it. Whether Naboo is in this movie, I don't know. I don't think so. We're not going to go to any Pico planets, but it has that sort of feel from Star Wars. It kind of feels closer to that kind of design, but in a car kind of feel.
Now, I think before we wrap this thing up, I think, you know, it's interesting, because I thought going into D23, and I knew I had a really sneaky suspicion maybe we were going to get some Han Solo. Now coming out of it, and now that I've seen the sizzle reel so many times, Scott, I'm kind of glad we got this in a way, because it has sparked conversation, and it has been able to keep the story going for fans, because now we're able to critique it, now we're able to break it down, and now we're able, again, as we've said throughout this episode, connect the dots and start to try to add some things up. But I kept telling myself, I kept saying, you know, some of this might not end up in the film. Some of this might be cut out from the film, and that is why they are showing it to us. Personally, I would be really turned off by that, because I've seen so much great stuff in this sizzle reel that it's like, it'd be tough. But I have to understand at the same time, that's just how sometimes these things work. You know, it's cut out. Maybe we won't see that vehicle. Maybe we won't see porgs, which at this point, I'm like, why wouldn't you have porgs at this point? They're so dang cute. And obviously they're edible, so why wouldn't you keep them in there? But at the same time, Scott, I think we have to say what each of our favorite moments from this sizzle reel are, and why? And why do you think that it will end up in the final cut of the film? I know it's hard to predict that, but are you hoping to see that scene in the film?
Scene, it would be the Ray Lennon, well, Daisy learning to protect herself from three practicing lightsabers with three, whether it's the short kind of things that we saw from um, episode 3 with the Grievous's soldiers with their staffs. So if it's something like that, I hope to see that. I think we will see that in this movie. And to be fair, we've not heard a lot about reshoots yet, whether this movie's getting reshoots. So we'll wait to see. But yeah, I think that's the scene I want to see. I want to see Ray go up against people, whether it's the First Order or it's somebody else. And then hopefully Luke joins in the fight and realizes he is needed. So that's my favorite scene. And also the end of it where Admiral Akbar is, it's a wrap.
I knew you were going to bring that up. I knew you were going to bring up the ending to that, because I was going to say it too anyway. I mean, it's not like it's iconic now at all that we get Akbar at the end of something holding a Millennium Falcon, director's timetable going, it's a wrap, it's not a big deal at all, obviously. But I think if I were to pick a specific moment from the sizzle reel that I think should be included, I want to know more about where Leia is in that scene when we see her standing in front of the camera and everything. And I couldn't tell if it was Octu. I couldn't tell what it was in the background, if there was ocean, but it looked flat there. And she had her garb on that, of course, we saw from the Vanity Fair pictures. And I have my sneaky suspicions that this is where Leia and Luke see each other once again. I don't know why, because there's such a dark feel to it. It looks like the planet where Luke was training the young Jedi or the young Padawans at the time. It has that feeling to it. And I kind of want to see that camera angle of her with the plain background and then just her face, because that will become iconic. Become a very iconic shot in Star Wars, knowing, of course, always and forever where Princess Leia, our Carrie Fisher, is today. That's what I'm hoping for to see, is one iconic shot of course, Carrie Fisher in this film going forward. And of course, it's a wrap. I mean, you have to include that in there somewhere.
Yeah, it's one of the best. And I think we're going, the scene that you're talking about, I think we are going to get that. The next trailer, I've got a funny feeling next trailer is going to be out in August. The way this whole market has been, they had a sizzle reel this time last year with Star Wars Celebration. This time last year with Star Wars Celebration, we got a sizzle reel for Rogue One this time last year as well. So my prediction is we're going to get another trailer in August. Just because they had 3 trailers out for Force Awakens, 3 trailers out for Rogue One, 3 trailers out for this one. So I think we're going to get a trailer soon. And I hope we see that scene that you're talking about.
If they follow that format and if they follow that emotional tone that they want to, like there has been in all of these films, maybe other than Rogue One. It's hard to say because we didn't, of course, we were just going through Catalyst at that point and we were just starting to get an idea of what was going on with Rogue One. But if we're talking about the Chewie I'm home moment, I mean, I'm not going to say that the first trailer, the Last Jedi Must End, wasn't emotional, because that is emotional. But I think if they really want to hit the nail on the head and they want to get an emotional tone in there, that August trailer has Carrie Fisher and Luke in the shot. You and I have been talking about this, Carrie and Luke in that shot, and Carrie or Luke says one line to them, and it's like, it's good to see you or something. We just need that. I feel like with Star Wars fans, we need that emotional punch in one of these trailers to say, yep, it's that time, it's coming, be ready for when it does come.
Yeah. Definitely, and hopefully it comes soon, and then we'll break it down when it comes out. I just want to be here now.
That's the hope here at the network, is that we get this soon. We get to break it down. That's what we do best. Well, Scott, I think we've reached that time in Talkin Far Far Away. It's a little thing we like to call
Plug time.
What is it called?
Plug time.
Oh, correct. It is called Plug Time. Now, Mr. Scott Inch, where can the good people find you on social media?
You can find me on Facebook at Scott Inch or on Twitter at Scottinch85. And it's only 2 months, almost just over 2 months down my great vacation in America. We just call it a holiday, but great vacation in America.
We are so looking forward to that. Please make sure you use and follow the hashtag Scott's Great American Vacation. It is a real hashtag on Twitter, so make sure you're using it for everything when Scott comes over. Scott Inch from the Brick City Blockade Star Wars Podcast Network. You guys can follow me over on Twitter at Mr. Vogt Tweets. Make sure to head on over to Instagram. Follow me at the official Vogt. Please, please, please make sure to subscribe on iTunes to the Brick City Blockade Star Wars Podcast Network. Share it, like it, put in a comment, put in a rating. It's all about you guys. This content is all built around you. It's up to you to put in your thoughts, because maybe we'll do a little contest on it and maybe you'll win something. I don't know. That's just a little teaser for you for what might be to come. And also make sure to check out www.brickcityblockade.com for everything happening in the galaxy far, far away. For Robin Vogt and for Scott Inch, thank you guys for listening to Talkin Far Far Away, episode 22, and we'll see you soon. May the Force be with you.
Always.